Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering unboxing. So this is the third of 5 Commander 2016 unboxings. We're now on to the black, red, green, white deck, Open Hostility, with the lead commander being Saskia the Unyielding. And then there's 3 alternate commanders, again exploiting the partner mechanic. There's I think that's Timna the Weaver, which is white black, Tana the Bloodsower, which is red green, and Ravos Soultender, which is white black. So again, if you want to remain on colour with this deck, you would have to either use Timna in combination with Tana or Ravos in combination with Tana. You can obviously use these as standalone commanders, but it would obviously mean modifying the deck fairly heavily to get the relevant amount of on-colour cards. Not only that, but obviously cards that synergised well with their particular abilities. I'm not going to go through much more about the partner ability. In the first video I sort of spent quite a lot of time going through the ins and outs of that. So according to the marketing blurb on the back, Saskia the Unyielding thrives on brutal combat, calling upon vicious hordes to crush her adversary underfoot. Saskia's strikes always find their mark, cleaving through any foe that stands between her and the focus of her fury. So once we get this open, we'll take a little bit more in-depth look at those commanders. As with the other decks, all 4 of those cards are foil, and there is just a single large foil card, which is simply the lead commander, Saskia. So it's tricky to get these out without damaging them, I find. There we go. You can see again some quite nice foiling on there. The whole card has been foiled. There we go. So let's start going through the deck. Before we do that, we'll have a quick look at the deck specific insert. So on one side you have the sort of rationale behind Commander, how you play a Commander game, and then a bit of backstory about Saskia, Timna, Ravos and Tana. See there? And on the flip side we have a deck breakdown. And what they've done again is they've marked up on this particular product with any new cards that are asterisks, asterisked here. Be interesting once again to see what sort of land they have, a non-basic land, and also whether there's any artifact manifesting going on in here. Because you can imagine there's a real skill to building basically 4 colour decks or 5 colour decks. So really anything over 3. Well, I suppose there's a skill to building 3 colour decks. But once you get above that, then it gets very quite tricky to get some of these cards which have all 4 colours in them, getting them sort of casted in a timely manner. In fact, I think the other deck actually had one of the one I unboxed previously, which is the Entropic Uprising. That actually had one of the original 4 colour Nephilims, which probably was what sort of started this whole 4 colour commander debate way back in. That was from the Shards block, I think, Nephilims. Also in here is another one of these quick references, which is a sort of simplified player's guide, if you like, on how to play the game. And that's a universal one, regardless of whether it's command or some other format. So, Saskia the Unyielding, black, red, green, white. Legendary creature, human soldier. It's 3/4, has vigilance and haste. As Saskia the Unyielding enters the battlefield, choose a player. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. Ravos Soul Tender. You can see they're also foil. 3 white black for a 2/2 legendary creature, human cleric with flying. Other creatures you control get +1/+1. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand, and this has partner on it, obviously, because this is one of these commanders that you can partner up. Tanner the Bloodsower, 2 red-green for 2/2 legendary creature, elf druid with trample. Whenever Tanner the Bloodsower deals combat damage to a player, create that many 1/1 green sapling part creature tokens. There's partner on it. And Timna the Weaver, 1 white black 2/2 legendary creature, human cleric with lifelink. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, it's pretty specific, you may pay X life, where X is the number of opponents that were dealt combat damage this turn. If you do, draw X cards. And this also has partner on it. And again, we've got a pretty good complement of double-sided tokens here. So we've got some things generating saplings. So double-sided sapling token there. Well, I don't see the point of actually having the same token on both sides, but never mind. Although it is different artwork, I suppose. But so something in here is generating a lot of saplings. So it looks like it's sapling exclusive tokens. Okay, so we're going to go through this deck like I've done the other ones. I'll obviously show you all the cards, but I'll specifically focus on the rarity and the rare and mythics. And as I've mentioned before, of course, having rarity in a product like this can be a bit of an anomaly, because there's some new cards in here, there's some old cards in there. It's not as if we're pulling these out of boosters, but they've obviously added rarity nonetheless. White of Precinct 6, 1 and a black, that's uncommon. Quirion Explorer, Sakura Tribe Elder, Silvok Explorer. So we got some green mana fixing going on here in the ramp. I can never say this one. Korozda Guildmage, Zertar Druid, Selesnya Guildmage, Wilderness Elemental, Skull Clamp and Soul Ring are both in here, as are there in the other decks, and Fellwar Stone. And we have some signets. We've got Gruul Signet for red green, Lightning Greaves, in fact maybe that is the only signet. Commander Sphere gets in here as well. Evolutionary Escalation, Necrogenesis, Frenzied Fugue, Boros Charm, Terminate, Abzan Charm, Naya Charm. So that'd be the 3 colour charms from the Khan's block and the Shards block. Grab the Reins, Sylvan Reclamation, Order and Chaos, Farseek and Rampant Growth. See two solid cards in a green deck. Charging Cinderhorn, so we're moving on to our rares now. 3 in a red for 4/2 creature Elemental Ox with haste. At the beginning of each player's end step, if no creatures attack this turn, put a fury counter on Charging Cinderhorn. Then Charging Cinderhorn deals damage equal to the number of fury counters on it to that player. Stonehoof Chieftain, 7 and a green, 8/8 creature Centaur Warrior with trample and indestructible. Whenever another creature you control attacks, it gains trample and indestructible until end of turn. Primeval Protector, 10 and a green for a 10/10 creature avatar. Primeval Protector costs 1 less to cast for each creature your opponents control. I would hope so with the casting cost of that. When Primeval Protector enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. Conqueror's Flail. So 2 generic mana. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 for each colour among permanents you control. As long as Conqueror's Flail is attached to a creature, your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. And equipped for 2 generic. Divergent Transformation, 6 and a red with Undaunted, so this spell costs 1 less to cast for each opponent. Exile 2 target creatures. For each of those creatures, its controller reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals a creature card, puts that card onto the battlefield, then shuffles the rest into his or her library. Brutal Horde Chief as Mythic, 3 and a black, 3/3 creature Orc Warrior. Whenever a creature you control attacks, defending player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. 3 red white hybrid mana. Creatures your opponents control block this turn if able, and you choose how those creatures block. Iroas, God of Victory. 2 red white legendary enchantment creature God. 7/4 indestructible. As long as your devotion to red and white is less than 7, Iroas isn't a creature. Creatures you control have menace. Prevent all damage that would be dealt to attacking creatures you control. Den Protector's in here. 1 and a green, 2/1 creature human warrior. Creatures with power less than Den Protector's power can't block it. It's got Megamorph for 1 and a green. You may cast this card face down as a 2/2 creature for 3. Turn it face up any time for its Megamorph cost and put a +1/+1 counter on it. When Den Protector is turned face up, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Mentor of the Meek, 2 and a white for a 2/2 creature human soldier. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. Mirror Entity, 2 and a white for a 1/1 Changeling. This is a really cool card in Commander, actually. And it has X until the end of turn. Creatures you control have base power and toughness XX and gain all creature types. Really useful in a token deck like this. Alicia, who smiles at death. 2 and a red, 3/2 first strike. Whenever Alicia, who smiles at death attacks, you may pay white black hybrid. If you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. Taurian Mauler, 2 and a red for 2/2 Changeling, so this card is every creature type. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Taurian Mauler. Managorger Hydra, 2 and a green for a 1/1 with trample. Whenever a player casts a spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Managorger Hydra. So there's lots of playing around with +1/+1 counters in here. Wild Beastmaster, it's 2 and a green for a 1/1. Whenever Wild Beastmaster attacks, each other creature you control gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Wild Beastmaster's power. Dauntless Escort, 1 green white, 3/3 creature Rhino Soldier. Sacrifice Dauntless Escort. Creatures you control get indestructible until end of turn. Theolonite Hermit, 3 and a green, 1/1 creature Elf Shaman. Sapling creatures get +1/+1, which is rather handy when we have saplings kicking around. Morph for 3 and 2 green. You may cast this card face down as a 2/2 creature for 3. Turn it face up any time for its morph cost. When Thilonite Hermit is turned face up, create 4 1/1 green sapling creature tokens. Mycoloth. 3 and 2 green for 4/4. Devour 2. As it enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This creature enters the battlefield with twice that many +1/+1 counters on it. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapling creature token for each +1/+1 counter on Mycoloth. So you can sort of see how this might work. What you do is when you play it, you're sort of devouring, say, an existing sapling tokens. And then this thing actually effectively recreates those tokens at the beginning of your upkeep. In fact, it actually generates twice as many, because Devour 2, yeah, because you're getting twice that many +1/+1 counters. So if you devour, say, I don't know, 3 sapling tokens, that'll put 6 +1. No, yeah, that'll put 6 +1/+1s on here. And at the beginning of your upkeep, you generate 6. So yeah, this would, this card is a real fun card, I think, to bounce, as is quite a few of these cards with entered the battlefield abilities on them. So if there aren't cards in here that are going to bounce this stuff, then that's always a good thing to look for, is that cards that will enable you to return stuff to your hand. Now, the only downside is blue is very much a colour for that. But it's always interesting to go through Magic's history and just see if there are any, black, red, green, or white cards that somehow manage to get stuff into your hand. I think white's a good colour for is it like a flicker type effect, where it doesn't actually go to your hand; it just sort of goes into exile and comes back out again. So that'd be interesting to play around with stuff like that. We'll see if we've got anything like that in here actually. Ankle Shanker. 2 red, white, black for 2/2 with haste. Whenever Ankle Shanker attacks creatures you control, gain first strike and death touch until end of turn. Thunderfoot Baloth. 4 and 2 green for 5/5 trample. It's got the lieutenant ability on it, which was in one of the earlier commander products. As long as you control your commander, Thunderfoot Baloth gets +2/+2, and other creatures you control get +2/+2 and have trample. Stalking Vengeance. 5 and 2 red for 5/5 creature avatar with haste. Whenever another creature you control dies, it deals damage equal to its power to target creature. Sunforger. 3 generic mana, artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +4/+0. Red, white, unattached Sunforger. Search your library for a red and white instant card with converted mana cost 4 or less and cast that card without paying its mana cost. Then shuffle your library. Equip for 3. Blind Obedience. 1 and a white enchantment with Extort on it. So whenever you cast a spell, you may pay a hybrid white-black. If you do, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain that much life. Artifacts and creatures your opponents control enter the battlefield tapped. Beastmaster Ascension. 2 and a green enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, you may put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension. As long as Beastmaster Ascension has 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. The classic card for a token, a deck that contains tokens in it. Everlasting Torment. 2 black-red hybrid enchantment. Players can't gain life. Damage can't be prevented. All damage is dealt as though its source had Wither. So a source with Wither deals damage to creatures in the form of -1/-1 counters. Breath of Fury. 2 and 2 red enchantment aura. Enchant creature you control. When enchanted creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it and attach Breath of Fury to a creature you control. If you do, untap all creatures you control, and after this phase there is an additional combat phase. Artifact Mutation. red-green instant, destroy target artifact. It can't be regenerated. Create X/1/1 green sapling creature tokens, where X is that artifact's converted mana cost. Aura mutation. This is green-white, and it's an instant. Destroy target enchantment. Create X/1/1 green sapling creature tokens, where X is that enchantment's converted mana cost. Crackling Doom. Red, white, black instant. Crackling Doom deals 2 damage to each opponent. Each opponent sacrifices a creature with the greatest power among creatures he or she controls. Utter End. 2 white, black instant. Exile target non-land permanent. Shamanic Revelation. 3 and 2 green. For a sorcery that draw a card for each creature you control, and it also has Ferocious on it. You gain 4 life for each creature you control with power 4 or greater. Clan Defiance, X and red-green for a modal sorcery. So we get to choose one or more. Clan Defiance deals X damage to target creature with flying. Clan Defiance deals X damage to target creature without flying. And Clan Defiance deals X damage to target player. Lava Launch, X black, red, green for a sorcery. Lava Launch deals X damage to target player and each creature he or she controls. And now we're moving on to our mana base. So these are first up our non-basic lands. Caves of Quelos. So tap, add colourless to your mana pool, and then tap, add white or black to your mana pool. Caves of Quelos deals 1 damage to you. Dragon Summit's in here, so it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp or a mountain. And tap, add black or red to your mana pool. What's interesting actually about the a lot of these dual lands, like the dual colour lands, is, and when you compare the different decks, they've actually added quite a bit of variety. So in some decks, you know, they've had bounce type lands. Here we're seeing these sort of conditional tap lands where they enter the battlefield tapped unless you control a swamp or a mountain, and then we just had there, which deals 1 damage to you. So it's interesting how they've sort of mixed it up a bit rather than sort of use the same cycle of lands across all the decks. But this has been in all the decks so far. Exotic Orchard, and I think we're going to see a lot of cards in all the decks, a lot of non-basic lands which generate multiple colours of mana. So with Exotic Orchard, you can add to your mana pool 1 mana of any colour that a land an opponent controls could produce. Grand Colosseum enters the battlefield tapped. You tap it for colourless, and you can also tap and add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool. Grand Colosseum deals 1 damage to you. Plusen Forest. Tap, add colours to your mana pool. Add red or green to your mana pool. Plusen, I think that is. Forest deals 1 damage to you. Mosswort Bridge. It's got Hideaway, so it enters the battlefield tap. When it does, look at the top 4 cards of your library, exile 1 face down, then put the rest on the bottom of your library. It also taps to add green to your mana pool, and for green you can tap it. You may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if creatures you control have total power 10 or greater. Rootbound Crag. Another conditional land here, so it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control a mountain or a forest. Tap, add red or green to your mana pool. Spine Rock Knoll is another land here with Hideaway on it. So for this one, it taps to add red mana to your pool, but for red you can tap it, and you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if an opponent was dealt 7 or more damage this turn. You can see that's sort of an on-colour condition there. Sunpetal Grove. So a conditional land here for a forest or plains as to whether it comes into play tapped. And tap it, add green or white to your mana pool. Windbrisk Heights, so this is the white Hideaway card. So again with Hideaway, tap, add white to your mana pool, and for white tap you may play the exiled card without paying its mana cost if you attacked with 3 or more creatures this turn. Grave Upheaval. So we're moving back to some sorceries here, or a sorcery. 4 black-red sorcery, put target creature card from graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, it gains haste. It also has basic land cycling for 2. So with the other decks also we saw some land cycling going on here. And that really sort of works nicely with, you know, maybe cards which are trying to get you lots of land. What happens if you've got cards that you don't need? They will also, with land cycling, they will help you, you know, search down your library, but only for a basic land card here. Treacherous Terrain deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of lands that player controls, and that also has basic land cycling for 2 generic mana there. And we got some plains in the deck, so these are our basic lands, a few swamps, and again we can see the nice artwork here, some mountains, and a few forests, possibly the rest of the non-basic lands. So Ash Barrens, tap for colourless, adding colours to your mana pool, has basic land cycling on it of a single generic mana. Command Tower is in this deck as in the other ones we've seen so far. To tap, add to your mana pool 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. Evolving Wilds, so tap, sacrifice, search your library for a basic land card and put it into the battlefield tap, then shuffle your library. Gruul Turf is a bounce land, so it enters the battlefield and also enters the battlefield tapped. When it enters the battlefield, you have to return land you control to its owner's hand, but once this untaps, you can then tap it for red-green. Jungle Shrine taps for red, green or white, but enters the battlefield tapped. Nomad Outpost taps for red, white, green, and also enters the battlefield tapped. So we've seen those sort of 3 colour lands from Khan's and Shard's block in all the other decks. Orzhov Basilica, here's another bounce land which enters the battlefield tapped. When it's untapped, it taps for white, black. Sandstep Citadel, another 3 colour land entering the battlefield taps for white, black or green. And then Savage Lands, this one is same sort of thing but for black, red or green. And not surprisingly, Terramorphic Expanse is in here, so you know, does the same thing as our old friend here, Evolving Wilds, basically. Okay, so there we have the deck. That was the Open Hostility deck. So again, very interesting set of non-basic lands. You know, full complement here of sapling tokens. We've got Timna the Weaver, Tanner the Bloodsower, and Ravos Soultender as our partner commanders there, and Saskia the Unyielding as our sort of full colour lead commander. Okay, there we go. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.